the reality of this never had anything to do with safety. It had more to do with politics and power dynamics than safety and the needs of families all across the country. COVID didn't break the government school system. It was already broken. And the past 2 years have simply shined a spotlight on the main problem with K-12 education all across the country, which happens to be a massive, long-existing power imbalance between the government school monopoly and individual families. Private schools were fighting to reopen, or they figured it out from the get-go when it came to in-person learning in March of 2020. The public school teachers unions were fighting for the opposite. They were fighting to remain closed. And I don't think that's because of a difference of motivations or the competence levels of the people in the system. I don't think it's because the private sector had better people and that they're just more benevolent than the public sector employees. The difference was one of incentives. One of those sectors received children's education dollars regardless of whether they even opened their doors for business. So of course, if you could go to Puerto Rico and vacation in person, it would make sense for you to fight against reopening schools in person. And we actually saw that happen with the Chicago Teachers Union board member railing against reopening schools in person on social media while posting pictures and selfies like I did earlier at the beach in Puerto Rico. Wait, hold up. If it's safe enough to vacation and go to Puerto Rico and party in person, why wasn't it safe enough to go back to work in person? Well, the answer is pretty obvious, right? It's more enjoyable to go to the beach than it is to go to work. That doesn't mean the people are inherently bad. It's just they knew that they could receive the same amount of benefits in terms of job security and pay while not providing the services that were promised to families any other year. And so in the same towns, you saw private schools, for example, in Sacramento County, California, you had a Catholic private school out there that actually rebranded itself as a daycare center in order to reopen it for in-person instruction for families, because there was a health order that arbitrarily applied to schools, but not to daycares. Yeah, because COVID knows if you're learning something, it's gonna get you, right? It was an obvious collusion between the teachers' unions and the health officials. We saw it with the CDC. Randy Weingarten's AFT explicitly lobbied to the CDC to make it more difficult to reopen schools in person. And at least 5 studies now, is the first one to do one of these, it's published in Social Science Quarterly with Christos Makrides, found that all else equal, after controlling for tons of background characteristics in the area, places with stronger teachers unions were less likely to reopen their schools for in-person instruction. It shouldn't take a study to figure that out, but you know, as economists, a lot of us like to do is run the numbers to provide data for our theories. And that's probably a smart thing to do in the long run. But all of the studies on the topic, 5 or 6 now, have found the same relationship. And it's not just that they understood they can keep their benefits in terms of job security and pay, regardless of providing the services in person. And look, we didn't see this with grocery stores, we didn't see this with private schools, we didn't see this with daycare centers. Private businesses were able to figure it out, but the government schools fought to remain closed. And look, they understood that it wasn't just that they can keep their benefits the same, they could actually financially benefit from keeping their doors closed because they could use the closure and the virus as an argument as to why they needed more money to open their doors. We're closed because we don't have enough money. That's the same thing we hear over and over again from these bloated, geographically monopolized schools that we call public schools. And it worked for them. They were essentially able to hold children's education hostage, essentially in perpetuity, for over a year to receive multiple multi-billion-dollar ransom payments from the taxpayer. They received $190 billion since March of 2020 in COVID relief. And a lot of the funding has been used for non-safety related issues such as diversity, equity, and inclusion officers and programs. Some states are using it on sports, stadiums. Great, you know, sports are fine and all, but you said you were going to use the money to reopen the schools. The reality of this never had anything to do with safety. It had more to do with politics and power dynamics than safety and the needs of families all across the country.